February 26, 2005, I had my first severe traumatic brain injury. As well as working in Iraq. I was an infantry platoon sergeant at the time, trained in the Iraqi Army, and we were out on a mission. Upon completion of the mission, we're driving back, and a small sedan, unbeknownst to us, packed with explosives, drove itself into our vehicle without sitting in the back of an unarmored, pickup truck with the Iraqi platoon that I was working with. And then that person blew himself up. So it was basically in my face. And so didn't really realize what had happened, the severity of the brain damage that had taken place, until weeks, months, even in some cases years after the fact, of all the scarring that was done to my brain. So we break down like traumatic brain injury and what it is, and kind of how the residual effects. It comes in many different facets. Individually, I had difficulties remembering short-term memories. There's time gaps that I literally don't, like from my childhood to all the way to my adulthood, cannot remember. And these are big major events just gone. If I talk to somebody about those events, and it'll bring back that memory, but as far as me being able to break it down myself, it's gone. And then there's a little small daily things that I deal with, was where did I put my keys? Where, what am I supposed to do as far as my daily schedule? And so I've learned how I've had to adapt to this. And it's not just getting older, it's like literally when this happened, I was in my early 20s. So there's nothing, I should have been able to remember where I put my keys when I came home. But I started having to change the way I did things in order to stay on top of these brain injuries. But I didn't know what was going on. Another residual effect of a traumatic brain injury is how your family deals with it. So if you're married, or you have a significant other, that person learning how to now deal with you, have simple conversations, your attention span is almost nil. If any, having often difficulties trying to remember what you were even talking about 5 minutes into the conversation. Things like that. Your children's names or birthdays, that's a bigger issue. Or even walking into a room and looking around and forgetting completely why you just did, like, what was my purpose for entering that room? What was I doing? A lot of the signs and symptoms of a traumatic brain injury have often been looked at as having ADHD or ADD. And it's because it's an attention deficit issue. But what happens is the neural pathways in which your brain used to work normally is now rerouted. So for example, if your neural pathways, and they run along your head like this, we're going from point A to point B, it still goes from point A to point B, but it also hits C, D, F, G, and then back to B. So it does work, but it just takes a little bit longer. And it's something that it takes time for you as the soldier, as the injured person, to be aware of, as well as the family members. It often causes major issues with your spouse. Me personally, I dealt with it. Being married, it made my difficulties with my significant other challenging at times. She would get frustrated with me, and rightfully so, because we didn't know what was going on. I just knew that I was paying attention, but it seemed like I wasn't. And so those were just causing those relationship difficulties that were really just unnecessary. And then one of the major difficulties with TBI is really how it changes you. You come back, you leave to go on a deployment, and you're one way, you're happy-go-lucky, everything's great. You come back and you're cold, you're stone cold, you're very emotionless. You just are like a walking emotionless person. You have no feelings. What happens is, over time, in my experience, is that you are exposed to so many different traumatic situations where you see your friends hurt, mortally wounded, the guy next to you is no longer there because he just got killed. Things like that start to take a toll on you, and coupled with a traumatic brain injury, it starts to change who we are, and it greatly deteriorates relationships, not only with your significant other, but also with your kids and your loved ones at home. TBI, PTSD, all these different things happening to the soldier. He's no longer who he was, and he can't package these feelings and emotions up. And then so what happens is these walls, these barriers become built between himself, his friends, his teammates, people he really cares about, his wife, his girlfriend, or significant others, and then most importantly, the children. And he can't express, and he doesn't know how to deal with these things. And so over time, if it's not dealt with, it becomes a much larger issue. And what we have seen in recent cases is that my close friends, people that you and I both know, have continued to abuse substances, whether it's alcohol or drugs, and they ended up going down a dark road, or sometimes punitive issues, whether they lose, they get divorced, they lose custody of their kids, and next thing you know, they're getting kicked out of the military, or something bad happens, and they look around and they're isolated, they're alone. Again, not knowing what's going on in their lives, or how to control it, or even where to start. Where did all this begin, and how do we address it? And so that's why us at APK Charities and Ruck to Remember want to share our stories with you, so that you are able to, we're just normal people just like the next person's, but we have a story just like you do. But it took us a long time, years in some cases, to identify the what. And once we figured out the what the problem was, we were able to reach out and start identifying or asking for help. And so that's our goal here, is that if we're able to share our story and be a little bit vulnerable, I'm okay with that. I've learned over the years that vulnerable, it's actually pretty cool. Once you let people in and start to see that, that we are human, we do make mistakes, it becomes acceptable that we can grow from that. And that's what I hope that this video will do for you, is allow you to grow and allow you to identify the signs and symptoms of a traumatic brain injury, or PTSD, or even substance abuse. I've lost a lot of friends in the last 10, 15 years to substance abuse, even family members. And suicide's a real thing. And when you're dark and alone in that room and you don't know where to turn or where to go, it unfortunately often ends to suicide. And that's another thing that we'll address in the near future. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to us through direct message on social media, and we'll try and link you in with the right fit for you. By no means are we experts. This is just us saying, hey, we've been through this, we've done this, and there's organizations out there that can help you.